What is going on, everybody? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to a very special edition of the HFWB podcast series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and with me today, I have a very special woman who's become a very special friend. And the one thing that I've noticed off the top of her, based on the conversation we were having earlier, is that she's a fighter at heart. And she's kind of reminds me of a mutual friend that we both have. For those who've listened to this episode of the podcast before with the lovely Marina Robles, she's basically somewhat of a different type of badass we're definitely going to get to know. I want everybody to welcome the lovely Kimberly Avalos, aka Kim Possible, to the HFWB podcast series. Kimberly, welcome aboard.
Hi, thank you for having me. Oh, and my dog apparently.
No, you're good. This is good for those who are watching the HFWB podcast series on YouTube. Kimberly's dog just jumped into the visual. As we could already tell, she is a dog lover, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're gonna dive into everything all about you because that is what this is simply all about. So, for everyone who's listening to the podcast series today and who wants to know who is Kimberly Avalos the person, how did she become the fighter that she is, and what does the MMA world mean to you?
Well, I actually first got into MMA as a whole. I started out as self-defense. Like, that was just something I had seen. Like, obviously, UFC was making its big, I guess, debut. Like, everybody was starting to follow it. It was becoming very mainstream. And so I would watch it, and I thought it was really cool. And I had a friend that I went to high school with who is now a professional fighter, El Vaquero, Peter Caballero. He is a good friend of mine from high school, and I had watched him on Facebook. Like, he would post about his training and things like that. And so it kind of, and he doesn't know I'm saying this, but it kind of inspired me to really just jump in and try something new. And, you know, he had invited me one day. I was very shy back then. I was like completely the opposite of who I am today. Like, I was very timid. I was very shy. I was afraid to go to the gym with like a whole full class. Like, I wouldn't do it. So I started out paying him to do private lessons with me in kickboxing and in judo, because we started way back in probably like 2012 when Mendez martial arts was a gym. And so we would do judo there. We would do kickboxing. And it was just really like my first introduction to like the MMA world. And not long after that, he had progressed. He switched gyms to go do jiu-jitsu at Gracie Baja under Professor Leo Gandu. And that was just that was it for me. Like, he told me to follow, like, I followed him there. And I just completely fell in love with jiu-jitsu, and it was just one of those things that, like, I never looked back. So I started competing in IBJJF. Took a little bit of a break because I have a daughter. I took like about a year off. I hadn't really done much striking. I just like fell full force into grappling and jiu-jitsu and competing. And then it turned into super fights, and you know, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of good at this. So like, it was just really fun to kind of like have grown men come into our gym and be like twice my size, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do that? like they would tell me like, wow, I just did not expect that from you. And so it's very like confidence boosting. And over the years, I noticed that I was improving overall my whole life, like eating, lifestyle, sleep, like everything. Cause you know, you don't want to go out into the world and like represent your coaches badly. You don't want to go start like bar fights or something, or, you know, just little things here and there that I started paying attention to. And so then Peter started doing his MMA at Weapons at Hand. He started doing his striking over there. And so that's how I met Aaron Gomez, who is now my boyfriend. And he's also a professional fighter as well. So like I met just this huge community of like really strong, great work ethic, just kind, inviting, like teammates. I call them teammates. So even though I'm not like underneath the weapons at hand flag officially, I've cross
Yeah.
trained there. Coach Roger has coached me to victory twice now at the, you mentioned Herschel's event, at the
Yes.
grappling event here locally in Corpus Christi. Coach Roger,
Shout out to Herschel Schultz for putting together those wonderful grappling events and really just highlighting the MMA world without question.
I love it. Herschel's amazing, and I thank you,
Yes,
for, he always asks me to be on his cards, so I'm like always grateful for that. It's very fun, and it's just a great thing to do here locally because we need that in Corpus Christi. Like
exactly.
that's, good food and grappling and beer. Like that's, say less.
Exactly. And you mentioned a couple things. It's like the community aspect as far as just bringing people together and everything. I mean, who doesn't, like you just said, want to come together for food, beer, and to watch a couple of people grapple and, of course, explore the art of just like being brutally beautiful at the
Yeah.
same time as far as just within the world of jiu-jitsu. That's one thing that I remember when I had Marina Robles on my podcast. She mentioned the term brutally beautiful. That is the best way I could truly describe everything that you just said. And it's kind of like,
For sure.
I'm pretty sure that's kind of how you became your own fighter within the art within itself. But anyone who wants to know basically like your go-to style as far as like within MMA fighting and everything, what would you say that would be?
My go-to style. Well,
Because I know you mentioned judo, you mentioned kickboxing, you mentioned Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
I,
I know you're into even wrestling as well. So it's like you can go multiple ways, but if you have to pick one as far as your go-to in any future MMA matches you're in, what would it be and why?
so jujitsu is obviously my bread and butter. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
I excel at jujitsu. Not to say that I love it any more than other sports, because like I just started wrestling last year, and I really love
Right,
wrestling. Like I can't tell you how much
right.
that's improved my jujitsu. Um, Obviously, I love striking. Like I love kicking. I love using my whole body as a whole. But I would say jujitsu is definitely, I would say like ground and pound. Anything on the ground, like I'm not afraid to use my whole body. So I look forward to that
Mm-hmm.
in the future. Just kind of like with Aaron, agreeing to work with me more on my striking. Like if you've never seen Aaron fight, he's an incredible striker. They'll say
Mm-hmm.
he's great at wrestling, and the commentators are always like, "Oh, he's like going to take him to the ground. He's really good at wrestling." It's like he is. Don't get me wrong, but his striking, it's really great. So I'm excited to kind of like go back to that and go back to the basics and learn. Like now that Marina's on the team, I mean, there was a period of time where we didn't have any female fighters in Corpus, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I focused mainly on jujitsu, because it's like we didn't have the existing team of females that we do today in the MMA community, that we're actually going out and actively competing and actively fighting in amateur fights and doing things like that. And so watching her and training with her and watching her go out and just kind of like put it all out there, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to be a part of that. Like, I want to do that. I want to inspire others, and I want to be the best martial artist that I can be. So while I do have my own personal goals of becoming a world champion in jiu-jitsu, that's my personal goal. That's what I want to do. But I
Mm-hmm.
also want to be
Right.
a fighter. So if I'm going to go that route, I need to be well-rounded in every area, which means giving it my absolute all in wrestling, in kickboxing, in, takedowns, like all of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can't really pick.
It's basically like it's no time for rest as far as what you're doing, and I love everything that you're saying, Kim, because it was like I was listening to basically some motivational like Kobe Bryant video earlier
Nice.
today, and he said it's basically it's like no time, just rest it. No time, just simply rest at the end. I'm trying to figure out ways on how I can get better in every little aspect, which is hence Mamba mentality: be the best version of yourself you can be. And
Yes.
applying that to MMA is more important than ever because it's a constant learning experience. You could always add a little trick to your arsenal to where you can use it for your next match and stuff like that. I love it,
Exactly.
and that's what makes jujitsu basically brutally beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, that's basically the best way you can describe
They
it.
call it the arte suave, the gentle art. There is nothing gentle about jujitsu. It's literally like folding people. What do they say? It's like involuntary yoga or folding
Right.
clothes with people in them. So it's one of
That's a good way to look at it. I like that. Involuntary yoga, folding clothes with people in them.
yes, which for
Okay.
those watching, if you're interested in doing jujitsu, I highly recommend to stretch. If you're not flexible,
Yes.
it's just gonna make it, it's gonna prevent injuries for one. And then two, when people try to do these fancy like 10th planet YouTube video, oh, I saw this on YouTube, let me try it. And they're like, oh, I can't
Mhm.
get my leg up. Yeah, stretch. Stretching is key.
That is very very critical, especially even if you're not just doing jujitsu, just working out in general. Make sure you stretch before and after your workouts. For everybody who's listening
Right.
to the podcast episode right now and who's wondering how they can get themselves active, stretch
That's right.
before you work out and after you work out.
Yep.
That's the most important thing. But I want to go back to something you mentioned, Kim, earlier, as far as just like the importance of just the impact of MMA here in Corpus Christi, just in general, just locally and everything. Where do you see it basically based on the community that you become a part of? Where do you see all of it coming together and maybe going forward, not only just this year, but going forward?
Oh, it's blowing up. Like it, if anything, just the amount of events that we're having here locally, I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching it grow before my eyes. Like it's beautiful because we've not only got Marina, now we've got other female fighters that are coming up within the city. We've got a lot of
Mm-hmm.
amateur fighters that are making it big and they're going to these Fury fights. Justin
Mm-hmm.
Barker, just he's a local black belt here. He just won his
Mm-hmm.
last MMA fight. We've got my friend Sam's husband out of Gracie Humaita, Zhao. He was doing fights for a little while. So you see a lot of conversion from jujitsu into MMA and vice versa. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
can't like people used to get away with being good at one thing. Like you would see
Right.
fighters that oh yeah, he specializes in, Muay Thai or, he specializes in judo or jujitsu. Now it's like you got to do it all. You cannot get away with just one specialty. Like you've got to kind of do it all. And I see everyone in Corpus kind of doing the cross training that they need to, putting in the hard work and
Mm-hmm.
overall just representing the city well. So I have high hopes that like we're just going to get bigger events here and, support your
Yeah.
local grapplers, support your local MMA fighters. Just the amount of support that we're getting, it's palpable. So I'm pretty stoked about it and I'm very excited to be a part of it. So it's really cool.
Yes. And it's kind of like dealing with the best of times and the worst of times as far as just putting together the whole process and doing that. And speaking of the best of times and the worst of times, is there kind of like a best of times and worst of times as far as you're all out of all the fights you've been to where it's like this has been the best time to where it symbolized this is why I do this, and then there was maybe a time where it was like, oh wow, I have a whole lot to learn from. I'm flat on my face. I need to get back up, do this. Can you want to elaborate on any experiences that
Oh,
stick to you to this very
oh, I'd
day?
love to. I can't
Yeah,
tell
of
you.
course.
I can't tell you how many times I have lost. Like, so I recently I would say about 2 weeks ago, I just did a Submission Hunter Pro in Houston, Texas. And
Right.
that Submission Hunter Pro is a Garcia Promotions. They're the same promoters that are in charge of Fury Fighting Championships. So
Okay.
it's a really big organization. I'm very honored that they, asked me to be on the card. It's a big deal to me. And I just did and won my very first Sub 100 Pro as a purple belt. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I got an armbar against a very, very well-known and popular opponent. She's sponsored by Bang Energy. She's like a big name there in Houston and Austin. And, people weren't there to see me. They definitely were not there to see me. But that to me is motivating. And it's like, it doesn't bother me anymore the way it used to, because I guess I've lost so many times. Like, I can't tell you how many times I drove to San Antonio or Austin just to lose my first match. Like, I'll do IBJJF tournaments. And I remember doing my very first one as a white belt and driving to San Antonio. My whole family drove out there to go watch me. And I lost my very first match by points. And I mean, I didn't get submitted, but she still outworked me. She had me in her guard. I couldn't pass her guard. I couldn't execute anything. I couldn't do anything. She just felt so strong. And my mind got the best of me to where I just froze, and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. So I'll never forget losing that match. And just immediately when the ref raised her hand, I just went to the bathroom and started crying. I just had to let it out, like all that hard work. But then I looked back and I was like,
the blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, but then I thought about it and I was like, did I work that hard? Did I give it my best? Because
is there another notch I can take it up to?
Exactly. Like, what could I have done more? And so then, like, at that time, my daughter was 9 months old. And so I had to like realize, okay, you're a new mom. You have a baby at home. Yeah, you have a baby at home. Your body still hasn't fully recovered. You're not getting as much sleep, and your diet could be better. And so I looked at all these factors and I thought, okay, she was the better opponent that day. So I began to see, like, okay, these are world champions that are going to these IBJJF events and that, could possibly be in my bracket. So I need to be training like a world champion if I want to get to that level. And once I switched that mindset, I went up against, her name was Marisa Cini, out of RPBJJ in San Antonio. Love her. Okay. She was my toughest opponent to date, honestly, in my opinion. We were both blue belts. She had just won second place at Worlds, so she was a silver world medalist. And I was totally in my head about it, like, what am I doing going against her? I'm doing a super fight against a silver world medalist. Like, she's great. And so then I go up and we do the match, and I'm like, it ended up going to a draw. And after that, both of our hands are raised, and I'm like, I did better than I thought I would do. I didn't get the submission, but I went up against a world medalist and I held my own. So, what does that say about me? Like, I did put over.
It lets you know that you belong here, and lets you know that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. That's a wonderful story.
That right there was like my first glimpse at, okay, I'm on the right track. And so then I just kept going higher and higher. And then I did another event recently against a first place. So basically she was a world champion at the blue belt level, Brittany Cowan. Not the nicest competitor, I will admit that. Her attitude could be a whole lot better. I'm not trying to be that person, but like I try my best to befriend every opponent I go against, because I respect every woman that puts it out there. I respect every competitor that goes, and I know what it takes. So I make it a point to like respect them and try. But she was just not nice. So but I went against her, and like, she's a world champion, so her head was like out here, but rightfully so. She put in the work. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm a fan of hers, right? And so I had followed her on Instagram, and I was like, all right, she works hard, but I work hard too. And she's a badass, but I'm a badass too. So going into that, my mentality was like, and she's just like so much taller than me because I'm so short. And I'm like, you know what? I'm closer to the ground. I'm just going to go in for her legs. And like I shot in, I took her down twice, and I got her with some nice doubles. And that one also went to a draw. So I was on like a three streak draws. And so I was like,
Mm.
okay, like it wasn't a loss, but it also wasn't a win. I need to push it. So
Yeah.
then I did Herschel's event. I was a blue belt. Well, but first, yeah, I was a blue belt. I went against a purple belt, and I actually won that one. I won it by knee bar, which was like my first leg lock ever, leg attack, and I won. Coach Roger, shout out to Coach. He coached me to victory, and so
Mm-hmm.
and then I had did another one. Like I had some health issues, and I was in the hospital for a little bit. Dropped 20 pounds unexpectedly because of my health issues, and so then I came back slowly, and I had to really, really like the girl was, I want to say like 125, 130. I was 110 pounds. Like I was little,
Mm-hmm.
but I took it anyways because I just wanted to do it. And I ended up winning that one too. So then fast forward to a couple weeks ago, I'm doing my first purple belt sub hunter pro, and it's in Houston. It's on the same, it's at the same venue where they have all the MMA fights, and it's like a big stage, and everybody's very
Mm-hmm.
passionate about their fighters there. Trust, like they let you know they're there for their fighters, and I love it. But it's like once I passed her, like I kind of studied her game, and I knew what I needed to work on. I knew what she was going to do, to what she was going to try to do to me. And so I got myself comfortable in those uncomfortable positions. So to where whenever it actually happened, I look at the photos and I was just so calm. I was like, oh wow, that was me. So I got her in an armbar. She messaged me later that night, and she told me that like I kind of hurt her arm. Like I was, that's the name of the game. Like I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I was like kind of trying to hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to
Yeah,
hurt.
you were in the moment
It
and
just
it just
happened. And
happened.
so yeah, and I was like, oh dude, I'm really sorry. Like try the ice and heat method. And so I'm like giving her tips, and we're like sharing skincare tips, and like we full on became friends after that. So I thought that was kind of cool. But like just to see her, because this girl has, like, her name's Lynette Villanueva, for those that don't know. She's got like
Mm-hmm.
109,000 followers on Instagram, and she's
Oh wow.
sponsored by Bang Energy and like the Atlas brand, and she's got all these major sponsors. So walking into it, I was like, all right, cool, like, but this is the level that I'm at. I've already gone against a few world champions. She's pretty well known, pretty great. She wins a lot of local Houston competitions, which Houston draws in a ton of athletes. So I was like, all right, I knew what I was up against, but I walked in confident. I walked in there knowing that I had trained twice a day for 7 weeks, that I had not cheated on my diet. I drank nothing
Mm-hmm.
but water, got my rest. There were days where I didn't want to show up to the gym to lift weights, but I did it anyway. There were days where
Mm-hmm.
after work I didn't want to go to wrestling or jujitsu, but I did it anyway. And just putting in that, like you said, that Mamba mentality into play, I was to say I was ready was an understatement. And the confidence that I had, I think she could feel it. And she admitted to me afterwards that when she saw me at the weigh-ins, she was like, she's ripped. She was like, oh my God, she's so ripped. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So like I earned her respect, and that's all I really want, is just to earn the respect that I know I deserve, because I know the work that I put in. I know the
Mm-hmm.
work that these other women put in, and these other fighters and these other grapplers, and I see it, and now I'm a part of it. And so it's one of those things that, like, I look back at that first loss and how I ran to the bathroom and cried, but I had not really put in the work that I should have. And so once I saw what I could do, I did it. And then it was like, okay, that's all it takes, is a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And you can do it. So that goes for
Yeah.
everybody.
It's I love this story tremendously, Kimberly. You basically just described your own Rocky story for everybody listening to this episode of the HFWB podcast series. And it just goes to show you, for everybody who's listening, the key word here, or key words, work ethic. If you have the work ethic, you can overcome anything. You could turn losses into draws, and you could turn draws into eventual wins. I mean, hey, look at the story that Kimberly just told on her overall fight journey. If it can happen to her, it can happen to you as well. And for anyone who's listening who basically wants to be in your exact position, who's inspiring to want to try to MMA world, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all of that, and who's a little hesitant on it, what would be the key piece of advice you would tell anyone listening right now?
I would say believe in yourself, because I know that sounds so cliche, but
No, it's not cliche. It's very
it legit
reasonable.
took me over 5 years of competing to get where I'm at. And I can tell you that I could have been where I'm at right now 3 years ago had I had the belief in myself that other people did. So I had teammates that would tell me, no, you're great, you're getting better, you're improving, but I didn't see it because I was getting smashed in class. And it's like, don't be afraid to be the nail. If you're always the hammer, smashing everybody else, that means you're not being challenged enough. If you're avoiding girls that are better than you, if you're avoiding tough roles or people that, always submit you, ask questions. Say, hey, in your opinion, what am I doing wrong? Or how can I get out of this? Or, what can I do to be better? And if they're not an asshole, they'll tell you. I try to be that teammate that's like, I don't like I don't like to be bullied. Like, I don't like.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place to practice on your white belt, which I think everybody should have that lower belt that that is okay with you, I guess, submitting them or practicing with them. I like to say practicing, because you have to have 3 levels of teammates. You have to have the teammates that are way below you, that you can just practice what you know, and then in the process they're learning too. So you have to have that lower ranked teammate that is okay with being smashed and asking questions and learning. You have to have that teammate that is on your level, that is going to push you to use your technique and to really think and strategize. And then you have to have that teammate that's absolutely going to demolish you, because that's who you're going to learn from. That is who is going to teach you what you're doing wrong and how to get better yourself. And that, like, you need one of each. So it takes a village. Don't avoid the hard roles. Don't be catty. Don't be petty. Don't be mean. Be nice. Make your teammates want to come back and train with you, because you could be the best girl in your gym and walk out and go to a competition and get completely stomped because your bad attitude or your mentality is holding you back from really, pushing yourself forward, because you're afraid to get submitted, or because you're afraid you'll look bad, or you're afraid that, oh, this lower belt submitted me. I have blue belt friends that submit me all the freaking time. And I'm like, oh shit, she's going to choke me. Like, I have to really work on my defense. And I'm like, that's good. And that's good. And they tell me, they're like, I'm just surviving with you. And I'm like, I'm surviving with you, dude. Like, that is what it's all about, is helping each other. Because when you help your teammates, you're in turn creating other teammates that are going to challenge you and make you better. Because like I said, you could be the best person in your gym, but that means nothing if you go out and like, you never challenge yourself. Oh, okay, I always submit her. I always choke her. I always submit her. But that other gym over there, that other gym has some girls my rank or a little higher that I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to stay where I dominate. That is how you stunt your own growth. So that would be my best advice, is just challenge yourself and be nice. I can't say that enough.
No. No, that I love it. I love it. And for everybody who's listening to this episode of the HFWB podcast series, have what Kimberly just said on repeat because it is golden, and that will literally not only get you through just not only in the fighting world, but just in life within itself. So, Kimberly, we're basically at the point of the podcast where I'll basically ask you like a list of questions that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast and give people an idea of a little bit of who you are as an overall individual and, of course, poke your brain a
Okay.
little bit. First question. The first question is simple. What is the first thing you do or think of every single day you wake up?
That's easy. I thank God. I thank God for another day.
Hmm.
I ask him, I ask
Amen
him
to
to
that.
guide me, to guide my thoughts, to guide my actions, and to protect my family and myself. Because back in August of last year, not many people know this, but I almost died. Like I had a near, yeah, I
Oh
was in
my
the hospital
goodness.
and I was septic and I almost died. So and I didn't know that until I was in there for a week and I felt like I was dying, but I didn't know it officially until I was
Hmm.
discharged. And so just kind of overcoming that, I thank God every single day. And that's literally my first and my last thought every day is just being grateful and thanking him and asking him to protect me and my daughter, my family, and to guide us through our day.
That's well said and beautiful at its finest. When you think of these two words, Kimberly, health and wealth, what are your personal definition of those, and what does it mean to you? Those
Oh
two
man,
words.
health is wealth, am I right? Like
No, you're absolutely right. You're not the first person who've
that
said that either, but you
I'm
are
definitely
absolutely
not.
right.
And but I do live by that. So I am that healthy mom. I'm that healthy girl that um, people see and they're like, oh, she's that girl. She doesn't feed her daughter McDonald's. No, I don't. I I am a
Whoa.
firm believer that what you put into your body not only affects you, but it affects your loved ones as well. Because that
Mm,
is why I was in the hospital was like stomach issues, and so I was diagnosed with colitis, and I had to like
mhm,
basically find the root evil, which for me was seed oils, and it's in like virtually everything in the standard American diet. So I have to eat very
mhm,
I have to eat like I eat a lot of red meat. I eat a lot of steak, a lot of eggs. I have chickens. So just a lot of whole food,
mhm.
organic, everything, pure water. Never tap because tap water is horrible. But I just, what I feed myself and put into my body, I do the same for my daughter and I do the same for Aaron. Like I want my family to be healthy because I know that is our wealth. Like our longevity and our lifestyle
Mm.
is going to follow us for decades, and it's going like we're not
Yes,
going to
I
have
agree.
these like coronary heart issues, hopefully, right? Like we pray to God we're not going to have like heart
Right,
attacks, we're not going to
right.
have dementia or Alzheimer's or all these like diabetes. These are all linked to, whether people don't want to admit it, but they're linked to poor health and poor food. So
Exactly.
yeah, to me, like that's everything. Health is everything.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right because without generational health, there will be no generational wealth to begin with. And you basically just summarized that beautifully. And for everybody who's listening to this episode of the HFWB podcast series and hasn't picked this up by now, Kimberly is the definition of basically a fighter and an ultimate badass. When you think of the word fighter, Kim, what does that mean to you, and what is your definition
Fighter.
of
Well,
it?
thank you first off. Fighter to me means just relentless, just never give up, and that is something that I have been my whole life. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just never give up, no matter what life throws at you, whether it's an MMA fight or a jiu-jitsu match or a health crisis. You never give up. You fight for what you want, and that's always something that I've done. So yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up. We're gonna do a little bit of a segment I like to call either or, and I'm gonna throw a either or at you with this one. The first one I have: would you rather have Loyalty or respect?
Loyalty for sure, because I feel like that's pretty easy. Like I feel like with loyalty, respect should follow. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can have people that respect you, but I guess the way where I'm at in my life is I don't really care too much what people think. Like I just want you to be I know
Yeah.
that sounds bad, but when you stop caring what other people think, oh man, like you're
It's very
there's like a
relaxing and
weight that is
peaceful. It
just lifted
is.
off of your shoulders. And so like I'd rather have loyalty hands down.
Exactly.
Like as long you're loyal to me, I know that there's respect there. So yeah.
And since you are a fighter, I gotta ask you this one: grappling or striking?
Well, that's kind of
I knew this was
that's a
coming.
hard one because like I said, like grappling is my bread and butter. But like I'm just gonna make the announcement here. Like I don't know if I've already said it, or, like recorded officially, but I'm going to be jumping into MMA and doing MMA like striking, eventually fighting as well. So that's a tough one. But I'm gonna go ahead and say grappling because like I as of right now I'm better at it.
Well said, well said. And we got ourselves an exclusive here on the HFWB podcast series.
You
That
heard
is
it
what we
first.
do. But would you rather live in space or live in the
Oh my
ocean?
gosh, the ocean is freaking terrifying. I say that all the time. Um, gosh, I guess I'm assuming would I have gills or would I be?
Yeah, assuming everything. Assuming everything. You can
I
breathe
mean, I always did
underwater,
want to be a
everything.
mermaid.
And
That'd be
same
kind of
with
cool.
space.
Yeah, you know what? Why not? I'll just fish are friends, not food. I'll make friends with what's his name, Bruce. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Now
I
that I
got
think
you.
about it, there's like a ton of plastic in the ocean, so I don't know. I might have to rethink that.
Whichever you
Yeah,
feel
I would still
comfortable
say
with.
the ocean, and then like if that's the case, then I would just get all like my mer friends to just throw all the trash back out.
Hey, we'll make it work either way, living in the ocean, definitely. Would you rather be famous and poor or anonymous
Oh,
and rich?
anonymous and rich, hands down. Throw me my farm, like I don't care who knows my name. I just want to be able to provide for my family and live the life of my dreams. So, I mean, it's going to happen anyways, but oh, gosh, like yeah, for sure. Anonymous and rich. I'll take it.
I got you. And I'm pretty sure this is kind of obvious because who doesn't love listening to music, of course, but would you rather sing to every song or dance to every song?
That is a tough one because I'm an undercover singer and dancer. It really just depends, I guess. Like if I'm in the shower, I'm singing because I don't want to dance and fall in the shower. If I'm cooking, I'm
Hmm.
dancing, or cleaning, I'm dancing. So that one's kind of a tie. Yeah, I don't know. That one's really hard.
It's all good. It's all good. Here's an interesting one. Would you rather eat a rotten apple or a moldy piece of bread?
Man, that is that
That's
is a
a tough
tough
one even for
one.
me.
I'm gonna say the rotten apple because at least it has a little bit of nutritional value.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Either way, you're getting
Yes,
mold.
that's exactly.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it. But that's an interesting answer. Now I understand, Kimberly. You're probably super busy, especially with everything that you do. But whenever you're not doing everything that you're doing, what are some of your personal hobbies that you like to do that many people may not know you like to
Um,
do?
People may, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably already know. But if you don't, I'm a total chicken mom. I have six chickens. So I've got two dogs, a
Mm-hmm.
cat, and six chickens. So I like you. If I'm not training, you can catch me outside with my birds. Usually just cleaning the
Mm-hmm.
coop and kind of tending to them and fresh eggs every day is great. So yeah, I'm like a low key like chicken obsessed lady. So
There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with that, and at least you're doing it the more natural way. So that's there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that at
I
all.
have a
I
huge
actually love
yard.
it.
So I'm actually getting four more. I pre-ordered four more from Nailers the other day, and I just like I have like this weird collection of different breeds of chickens. So they're like really pretty, but they also lay me
Mhm.
eggs. So yeah, I have like a huge yard, and I let them roam, and that's it's just like really interesting to watch them like forage and pick bugs. My daughter, I
Mhm.
homeschool her, so I get to teach her all about like raising them, and she's it's great. It's a really great lifestyle.
No, it's a great lifestyle, and I definitely would encourage everybody to do it as well, including myself, even at times. So that's wonderful to hear, Kimberly. But my last question for you is this: if you had the opportunity, right, to go back in time and talk to yourself, say 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself? And at the same time, where do you see your overall journey going in the next 10 years?
Well, if I could go back, I would probably tell myself basically what I said earlier, just to believe in myself and have confidence in myself. Life will be so much more easy if I could just do that and think more of my highly of myself and less of what people think. I feel like that could benefit absolutely everybody. Um, and then I guess I see myself in the next 10 years, I'm going to be a world champion in jiu-jitsu. Um, we'll see where I'm at in MMA. I might
Love
be,
it.
yeah, manifest. I'm bringing
Manifest
it
it.
out and putting it out
Manifest
there for
it.
sure. I'm gonna be a world champion in jiu-jitsu. Definitely get my black belt by then. I'll have a name for myself in MMA, whether it's in, like actually like MMA fighting. That would be really cool. But for sure, people are gonna know who I am with my
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu and maybe even my chickens. Who knows? Maybe I might have a farm and I'll just get married on my farm and just have like a ton of goats and chickens and sell some fresh eggs and milk and stuff.
Hey, I'm all for that, and that actually doesn't sound like a bad backup plan either. And that's the key there. Always have a backup plan because you never know. It might
Oh
come in
yeah.
handy. I love it. But yes, Kimberly, for everyone who wants to reach out to you, I know you mentioned that you had like an Instagram and stuff. Where can people find you? Do you have any upcoming fights you want to let the people know about? This is your time
Yeah,
to let
so
them
my
know.
Instagram, well, my Facebook, I'm Kim Possible. I actually like I'll be impressed if you can find me because I think my settings are like really super private on Facebook. But on Instagram, it
Hmm.
is KimCat BJJ. Yeah, at KimCat BJJ on Instagram. That's public, and I pretty much share all of my promotions on there as far as like jujitsu, grappling tournaments, super fights, things like that. I might have a super fight coming up in March. I'm just waiting to hear on if they found me a competitor or not. Um, but yeah, just you can
Hmm.
follow my Instagram and I will post it there if they do, which I'm hoping they do because I have a lot of teammates that are going to be on that card. And yeah, you'll hear it. Definitely later in the year as far as the MMA debut. That's one thing that I'm really excited about and super awesome to share with you guys. So, yeah, that's pretty much it so far. I just finished a 7 week camp, so I took a couple weeks off and I actually have to get ready to go to wrestling here in a bit. So I always stay ready whether or not I have something planned in the near future. I just stay ready, and that's my secret.
And that's a great secret to have, Kimberly. And to add to that, you have to stay ready, and so
Exactly.
you don't have to get ready. And I feel like that's a exactly. And I feel like that's the great way we should end this episode of the HFWB podcast series. And with that being said, Kimberly, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule just to come bless us with an appearance on the HFWB podcast series and just let the people know your journey and everything. You got my support going forward as far as on your overall journey.
Thank
It
you
was a
so much
pleasure
for
talking
having
to
me.
you.
I hope I inspired at least one person to do something today. So thank you. Appreciate y'all.
No, no, of course, anytime. And for those who are listening to the HFWB podcast series, this is your host, Clifton Pope, encouraging y'all to stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. Until next time, peace and love.